Hey guys, your favorite financial guru here. So you're broke, and no matter what you do, people just don't want to buy your blobfish for 2000 plat. Well, you've come to the right place. It's normal to be overwhelmed and not really have any idea on how you should navigate yourself as a player in the Warframe market, and anytime you try, you don't really have any idea on what you're doing, or your plat earnings are low, which is resulting in a lot of wasted time. Well, with this no BS guide on how you can get your money up and not your funny up, I will help you today with understanding in depth on how the economy in Warframe works. The platinum economy in Warframe is fairly complicated, yet a simple thing. Given you have the knowledge to operate around upcoming events, vaulting rotations, Warframe and weapons buffs and nerfs, new variant releases, yeah, a lot of factors play a role into the game's economy, and those were just to list a few. A common misconception I hear is that Warframe market is dead because vaulted prime sets used to go for 200 plat and now they only sell for 80. No Johnny, that doesn't mean that the market is dead, it just means that the plat has flown to other methods of earning rather than just prime sets. Which is good, because you now as a returning player have a lot of options on how you want to earn your platinum. Before I get into the guide, I want to stress the importance of Warframe Marketplace. The Warframe Marketplace is the best way to not get scammed in Warframe, and also the most convenient, fastest, and the most reliable way to sell your items. It's very easy to set up. You can list the items that you want to sell with no hard cap on how many items you can sell. And best of all the selling happens without you having to do a single thing in trade chat. If someone wants to buy something off you that you've listed, they will click on buy and copy and paste a command from the website into the game, which will send you a direct message telling you, hey, I want to buy this item off you. And this way of selling is much more convenient than being in the trade chat gulag where you're constantly spamming everything that you want to sell. Now, speaking of trade chat gulag, please avoid it like the plague. If you want to buy something, always buy it from the Warframe Marketplace. If you want to sell something, always list it on the marketplace. You know where to sell your items, but how do you know what price to sell them at? You don't want to be a scammer and scam people out of plat by overcharging, and you also don't want to be a failed businessman by undercharging your customers. Price checks can be done on the Warframe market very easily. You can type whatever you want to sell and look at the current sell value and the volume of items being sold in the statistics page. Now, if you're too lazy to do that, you could just ask one of your clanmates what would they sell for. Market research is very important for this guide. Through this guide, I will mention ways to get Arcanes mods that you can sell as a player who doesn't have access to all of the endgame content yet. When I tell you where to get these mods and Arcanes, you should do research to see which mod and Arcanes you will choose to sell for maximum profit. This is very simple. You check the market for the amount of items sold per day, you check the price of how much these items are sold for, and you conclude if there is a demand for this product or not. Relics have been a reliable way to make platinum for a very long time. Their primary purpose was to allow players who don't have money to farm and earn themselves prime warframes and prime weapons. For prime sets quickly became the best way to earn plat, and in my opinion, it's still very viable to earn plat this way. Now granted, if you already have a couple thousand plat, it's not the best thing you can do, but I'm guessing nobody with 1000 plat probably watching this video. Stocking up on prime sets will guarantee you will always have plat reserves. So if you have like 5 Korra sets, when they get vaulted, you'll always have them in your inventory, and 5 Korra sets when Korra is vaulted will probably be around 300 to 400 platinum. How does relic farming work? Well, get the relic from regular missions, open them, get prime parts, and complete the prime sets. List them on the market. If someone wants to buy that prime set, they will head over to the market, type the warframe or weapon in, and if your pricing is one of the top few, then you'll get your item sold. If you don't want to sell them straight away, then you can invest them by saving the sets until they get vaulted, and once the vaulting happens, the price will raise for that warframe or weapon. If you're low on relics, you can do relic farming with these missions that I will list. To farm Lith relics, go to Hepit in the Void. There's a chance for an Ire to drop as well, which is always good. If you want to farm Meso, do the Olympus mission on Mars. If you want to farm Neo and Meso relics together, you can do Yuko on the Void. That also has an additional chance to drop Ire. If you just want to farm for Neo itself, you can do Yor on Uranus. And if you want to farm Axi relics, you can do Apollo on Lua. Now, the best frames to use for these missions are always going to be speed frames. If it's a disruption mission, which a lot of them are, it's still good to use a speed frame so you can quickly slot in the keys and run to your target. Currently, Wukong and Slam builds are the way to go. However, if you don't have a Wukong Slam build, honestly anything works. Just make sure that you have a weapon that does a good amount of damage. You don't have to do these in Steel Path. You can just do them on regular missions, so it's much faster. But speed frames will always give you a significant boost in your mission completion time, so I would recommend that. Mod farms are not something I would recommend for endgame players, as there are much better platforms that you can do which net you a much higher profit overall. But for beginners and intermediates, these are probably the best farms in the game, I would argue. Syndicate mods are a no-brainer. Get your syndicate up to rank 5 and just sell augment mods for 15 plat for Warframes. You can sell companion mods from Deimos, Fortuna and Cetus. Every day, if you gather 20k standing in each of these locations, you can purchase a companion mod that is worth 20 plat. Now if you do this at each location, that's 3 mods and that's 60 plat a day, which over a month is 1,800 plat. Crazy, right? Companion mods can be found at Master Tessonite in Cetus. If you click on Brizewares, you will see that he has 5 bond mods, which all sell fairly well. But the one that sells the most, as of now, is Manifold Bond, but you can sell all of them. Puck in Cetus does sell Exodia Arcanes for Zors, but I wouldn't really recommend you guys invest any of your standing into this because they barely sell, they are barely used, and they don't yield much profit. In Deimos, you can find the companion mods at The Sun. The Sun has probably the best mods that you will get out of majority of the companion mod sellers. Seismic Bond, Contagious Bond, Duplex Bond are all great choices to sell because they have a very high sell volume and they all sell for around 20 platinum. In Fortuna, the business vendor sells the companion mods. Reinforced Bond and Tenacious Bond are 2 very popular mods that you can buy and sell consistently. Momentous Bond is also good. It's a bit more niche, but there are still a lot of people using it, so you can add that to something that you want to sell. But ultimately, all of the mods that these vendors are selling do sell for 20 plat each, and they do sell quite consistently. The ones that I mentioned sell the most, and they'll bring you the most consistent stream of income. You can farm Vitus Essence from arbitration missions if you've completed the Veilbreaker questline to buy Galvanized mods. Galvanized mods sell for around 15 to 20 plat. However, if these mods are sold fully upgraded, the total value of these mods can increase by 6 times. So a arbitration Galvanized mod that would usually sell for 20 plat base will now sell for 100 to 120 plat max rank. This, however, does require a lot of resources, being credits and endo. Credits are very easy to get, endo not so much. The best endo farm is still Arena in Sedna, and you can find a lot of guides on YouTube on how to do this farm effectively. However, I personally hate it. Recently, DE did something that they should have done a long time ago. They made defense missions 3 waves instead of 5. This indirectly buffed the endo farming through defense arbitrations. If you didn't know, arbitrations drop Ayatan sculptures which sell for 2.7k endo maxed, and it's normal to get at least 1 every 2 waves. Now if you don't get the sculpture, arbitrations also just drop base endo, and you can get 1.5k endo every time you complete 3 waves. To further add, arbitrations now drop Omniformum, which is very, very valuable. They also drop a couple arcanes. Some of them are worth a decent amount of plat, some of them are worth literally nothing. But this is my go-to endo farm, and if you don't have arbitrations unlocked, I would not recommend you maxing mods for profits yet at all, because it's too expensive for you and it's too time consuming. Archon mods are also a great way to make platinum. Just go to Skipper, do your weekly Archon mission, and with the currency that you get, buy Archon mods and just list them for sale. They sell for about 20 to 25 plat each. Baro Katir is a very pesky trader that comes every other week, and he sells mods to Warframe players. Some of these mods are amazing and have very high selling potential. However, they require a lot of ducats. If you're someone who has a lot of prime junk, it's good to convert all that prime junk into ducats and then buy valuable mods with the ducats that you get. One thing about Baro is when he comes, the price of mods fall drastically, but whenever Baro leaves, the price of mods start increasing again. So it's important that when you buy mods from Baro to always keep them for a couple weeks if you already have plat. If you don't have plat, then you just sell them straight away. The last mods that I would mention in this video that you can sell consistently and make a good amount of money from are Requiem mods. Now if you're fighting Liches, their little minions spawn and those little minions drop Requiem relics. Requiem relics can be used to run Requiem missions and open these relics to get Requiem mods. Most Requiem mods sell for around 10 to 15 plat, which is amazing. Because if you have a full group of people who are just running Requiem relics, since they're only silver rarity, they drop quite frequently and they sell for about 10 to 15 plat each. So a day's worth of farming can easily net you 5 to 600 worth of Requiem mods, given you have the relics to do that, but it's another great way to farm plat in the game. Talking about Requiem mods, Liches are another way you can make plat in the game. Now granted, these aren't the easiest way to make plat, but the plat earnings from these Liches can be very good. If you're lucky, you will get a high percentage weapon from your Lich, which usually sell for around 100 to 200 plat. But if you get even luckier, some Liches come with ephemeras, and ephemeras on the market sell for a pretty penny, especially if the weapon that you have alongside that ephemera has a very high weapon percentage. Trust me, people are willing to pay a decently high price for these Kuva Liches. One thing to note is depending on the element of your Lich, you will get different ephemeras. For example, for the Kuva Liches, if you farm for electric base Valiance weapons, you have a chance of getting the electric ephemera. A lot of Kuva weapons and Tenno weapons are very good and should not be slept on, so farming Kuva Liches is something you will do anyway, so why not make some good plat on the side. For credit farming, just farm index on Neptune. I'm sure you already knew, but I just wanted to put it in just in case a random soul somewhere in the world didn't know. Arcanes are not something I would recommend for newer players, as they are quite hard to get at the start of the game and require a lot of newer areas unlocked. How arcane farming in this game works is you farm for standing from all of these areas every day, and when you get the standing, you'll be able to get anywhere from 2 to 4 arcanes a day depending on what your mastery rank is, which you can sell each day, or you can save them up every week and sell them as an R5 arcane. An important thing to note is generally R5 arcanes yield the most profit and are the easiest to sell. It's also important to note that different arcanes sell for different prices, so always refer to the market to see what is selling the most. I've made a small list of arcanes here as of April 2025 that are selling for a good amount of platinum. It doesn't seem like a lot, but every week a free 200 plat from each of these places is not bad at all. Every month or so, you should always check the market to see which arcane is selling the most. Vosper is a system that was introduced last year into Warframe, where you can dissolve arcanes and get Vosper to buy arcane packs. If you're a new player, just be careful dissolving arcanes because you may not know the price and the value of the arcanes. If you do want to check, just head over to Warframe Market, type the arcane's name in and just check how much it's selling for. You'll kind of get an idea on which arcanes sell for a lot and which don't. I won't say in this video because everything's subject to change, and an arcane worth 10 plat today might be worth 100 plat tomorrow. For arcanes, firstly, I will mention the Bird 3 in Sanctum Atomica because she sells melee influence. Melee influence by far is the most sold, the highest price arcane you can find out of all of the vendors because it's so heavily used and basically a hard requirement for every Warframe player right now until it probably ends up getting a nerf, which I hope it doesn't happen, but I think it's inevitable. Melee influence is a great option to sell. You have melee animosity and melee exposure that also sell for a reasonable amount, but nothing compared to melee influence. So for the Warframe 99 update, if you go to Hollovania and talk to Eleanor, she sells all the arcanes there. I won't mention which arcanes for you to buy because they'll probably keep changing in price, but the two I will mention, and the two that probably will always stay a relatively decent price, are secondary innervates and primary crooks, because these are two very unique arcanes for weapons. I don't think that they'll ever really fall down in price because pretty much every Warframe player will need to get their hands on one at some point. So these are the only two I would recommend. Everything else is quite niche. For tuner arcanes, they are probably the hardest ones to get out of the whole bunch because you have to do very niche things to level up with Little Duck. Little Duck is the vendor that sells the arcanes, and the best arcane that she has by far is Magus Lockdown. Magus Lockdown is used by pretty much everybody in Warframe when they have the chance to get their hands on it, and it sells pretty well. It sells for 100 plat per R5. However, it does cost 10,000 standing, which means that you're only limited to getting 2 to 3 a day, which isn't great. However, if you want to make a bit more plat from just arcanes, it's a great option. Avalero and the Zaraman sells Arcanes as well. Molt Augment, Molt Efficiency, and Cascadia Flare are 3 very popular mods that, again, a lot of people buy. They all pretty much go for around 50 to 60 plat, and getting standing for the Zaraman is also, again, not that hard, so you guys also have that option to make plat as well. Now granted, a couple plat doesn't sound like a lot when you spend an hour a day to farm for these Arcanes, but when you add them up in a week, the payout is easily about 200 to 300 plat. But you guys do have the option to choose between whether you want to sell Arcanes or you want to sell mods. Mods right now, in my opinion, seem like the much better option for you to do. But if a lot of people jump on mods, then Arcanes are always going to be there. I do want to mention that every place that I recommended for Arcanes have their own way of dropping Arcanes in missions. You can farm Arcanes that way. For the Zaraman, it would be the Void Cascade. For Warframe 99, it would just be any mission. For Sanctum Atomica, it's killing a specific type of enemy. So again, a lot of these Arcanes can just be farmed from regular missions. So you could just focus on getting the mods to sell them, the companion mods, rather than the Arcanes. And the last and the most profitable platform of them all, Rivens. I do not recommend Rivens for newer players at all, and I want to make that clear. Rivens is just gambling. You're just gambling on Warframe. You're gambling your time, your brain cells, a lot of resources, or sometimes absolutely nothing. However, the plat earnings from Rivens are very high. Obviously, if you're an intermediate to endgame player, Rivens are the only thing in this game, as you know, that sell for ridiculous prices for any weapon that is currently in the meta. One thing I will note about Riven mods is Riven mods for weapons that are in the current meta only sell well. So if you have a crit damage, crit rate and multi-shot Riven for a really bad weapon that nobody uses, chances are that you're not really going to sell it for a lot of plat. So when you're re-rolling your Rivens, please do not re-roll off meta picks unless you want to use it yourself. If you're rolling Rivens to sell, always re-roll Rivens that are in the current meta. Now, if you don't want to do any re-rolling with Rivens, that is completely fine. Base Riven mods always sell for a good amount of plat. For example, if you get a Veriglass Riven right now, which is a companion weapon mod Riven, and you don't re-roll it at all, you can easily sell it for about 650 plat. So if you don't like re-rolling, you don't have to. You can just sell the Rivens at base for a decent amount of plat. Now that we've got Rivens out the way, let's talk about Kuva, because Kuva is what you need to actually reroll these Rivens and get good stats so you can sell them for a lot of plat. Steel Essence farming is the main way to get Kuva in the game right now. And Arcane Adapters, which is a great way to save your platinum, because spending 20 plat on every single weapon's Arcane Adapter really hits the bank sometimes. You should do daily incursions because it always nets you a minimum of 210 Steel Essence a week, which is great. Alongside that, doing Steel Path Void Cascade runs or Steel Path Long Relic Survival runs will always give you some well-needed additional Steel Essence, which is again great. If you're a player who has thousands of plat, please just buy the resource booster for 30 days. It's only 200 plat and it doubles everything that you get in the game. The main resource being Steel Essence. If you double your Steel Essence earnings, you will easily hit the maximum amount of Steel Essence that you need every single week, and you can make a lot of plat with re-rolling Rivens if you have the resource booster. So after saying all that, if you're an endgame player and you don't really care about all of these niche methods to make plat, the best thing there is for you to do right now in Warframe is Void Cascade. This has been a meta way to make platinum for a very long time, and I would argue that it still is, that nothing really comes close to it. I really hope DE makes some sort of disruption mission or makes another game mode for Alchemy, because I do really enjoy Alchemy, where the drops are just as good as Void Cascade, but I don't think they will. Another option for you if you don't want to do Void Cascade, which is completely understandable, is do Conjunction Survival. Conjunction Survival has a relic version which is Omni, so you can open any relic you want. It drops Lure Thrax Plasm, so instead of worrying about killing Thrax units in the void, you can just kill the Thrax units that drop Lure Thrax Plasm, and you can exchange those plasms at yonder in the Zaraman. In the Zaraman, she sells Arcane Blessing, which always goes for around 30 to 40 plat. Sometimes if the volume of Arcane Blessings selling are low, it can increase all the way up to 50 platinum. Another good arcane she sells is Frostbite for primaries. Now this is a very niche arcane, but it still sells here and there. They're both worth around 30 to 40 plat, on the odd week sometimes 50. So if you don't want to do Void Cascade and don't really care about it, you also have that option. And if you're a Riven junkie, make sure you visit the Iron Wake to get your 2 free Riven mods every week. Make sure you visit that random guy who has a hologram in Zariman to get the 2 or 3 Rivens that he sometimes brings. Sometimes he doesn't bring anything, so not very reliable. And make sure to farm Steel Essence for all the Kuvo that you can get and save up. Now some honourable mentions. If you're a Neanderthal Caveman Brain Ugga Bugga, you can go fishing or mining. Mining is a very niche but consistent way to make plat, because a lot of players can't be bothered to go out and farm for minerals, so they'll just go to the market, buy however many they need and call it a day. Fishing, on the other hand, I wouldn't really recommend too much, because the volume that sells is much lower than minerals that you would mine for, but it can still net you 10 to 20 plat a day if you really care that much about making the extra bit of plat on the side. That comes on to my last point. Always do your sortie missions. They probably will always give you an Iron Tan sculpture, but on the offhand they give you a Riven or even a legendary core. You could net yourself anywhere from 20 plat all the way up to 120 plat. So always do your sorties, because if you get lucky, it's just free plat. That's it for the guide. I hope you guys liked the video. I hope it helped you. If you did like the video, please like, comment and subscribe. Any support, even if it's a comment saying nice, is amazing, because it just tells me that, hey, someone actually enjoyed the video. And I hope you guys have a blessed week and stay safe, Tenno. Until next time.